Welcome, everybody. I'm super happy to be here with you today. This topic that we're going to talk about today is self-coaching for difficult times, or the topic of self-compassion is very close to my heart. And I feel like in the last 12 to 15 months, we've all needed an extra large dose of those things. So yes, a very warm welcome. I try to include all of your languages as per the profile on the ICF platform. I hope I didn't misspell anything or did anything weird there. I wanted to share just some organizational things with you, just so that everyone is on the same page. We're going to be here for approximately 2 hours. All you really need is a pen and a paper. I always advocate for the pen and the paper because I find that when you write something on a piece of paper physically, it has a different effect than just typing it into the computer or just thinking about it. So I strongly encourage you to use a pen and a paper, but of course, if you don't want to, then nobody is going to check that. The session is recorded. As I told you, you won't be in the final cut, and you will receive the recording and also the presentation approximately Friday, my afternoon. So around this time on Friday, I hope that I will be finished by then with all of this. And as I said, any questions, any concerns at any point in time, please feel free to use the chat. Okay, I did another thing because I was so excited that we have so many people from so many different countries. Now, not everyone is here yet, but I'm just going to go through this so that you have an idea of who's here with us today. I'm going to start at the left in the West. Larissa is in Canada. Then we have Ines in Portugal and Ines in Spain, which is a very nice coincidence. Then we have Yvonne from Switzerland, Russia, and Colin in the Netherlands. We have Christine in Germany, Roni from Finland, Tamara from Serbia. I'm in Greece, even though I normally am in Germany, but we have Greek families, so we're using the time here to spend some time with them now that we can. Kriti from India, and Yolanda from Singapore, and Leah from Indonesia. So Larissa would be at 9 a.m. and I think Leah is at 9 p.m. So we are spending a whole 12 hours here today. So this just to serve as a very quick introduction to give you an idea of who's here with you today. I hope some more people are going to join. Yvonne is also in Madrid. Great. Maybe you can have a coffee with Venus. Okay, I thought before we are diving into the topic, I would just like to do a very quick introduction round because it's self-coaching. We are not going to share so much about the coaching process once we started, but I would like to just give everyone a chance to relate a little bit to the others. I'm Evelyn. I normally live in Düsseldorf. I'm a psychologist. I worked for many years in business. So before I settled down in Düsseldorf 5 years ago, approximately, I was living in a lot of different places. The last one I lived was in France. And before that, I actually lived in Madrid. So I love Madrid. Very happy for 2 of you to be there at the moment. I am a mother. I have a 4-year-old daughter. And this is a big part of me also, of course. And I started what is now my second company, but it was a long journey. And I like to call myself a coachpreneur because I feel like I'm in the middle, like I'm a coach. I love coaching, but I'm also an entrepreneur because I have big dreams. So I'm a little bit in the middle of that. Yes, so if you want, feel free to share your 3 hashtags in the chat. I would love to, just get to know you guys a little bit better. If you don't feel like it, no problem at all. It's all good. We want to just create an atmosphere where everybody feels happy and supported. Then we are going to start with our topic today, self-coaching for difficult times. So for me, self-coaching is what I do for a living in a way, but it's of course also what I do for myself. That's how it all started, because I realized that I use a lot of coaching tools. I'm sure that it has happened to almost every coach, that you just, without thinking, you use them for yourself. And I thought, this is actually a nice thing, because maybe people can, also people who don't have coach training and who don't have the background, can also try to use that. And this is kind of my mission, to try to help people coach themselves, even if they maybe don't have so much of a background. And difficult times, this is actually, an approach that was born by virtue of the last 12 to 15 months, maybe, because I just realized that this kind of a marathon that is going on for all of us, but everyone in a different way. It's really challenging for almost everybody, I think. Some people more, some people less, some people in this way, some people in that way. But I think everyone has had, let's say, I think the Chinese curse goes like this, no? The interesting times. So the times were a bit too interesting for my taste sometimes. And that's how I came up with this idea, because I also feel like we are now at this point where we are in a long-term stress situation, not just short-term adaptation anymore. So I felt like I want to offer something that might help someone, and also myself, to get us going maybe a little bit better through these times. Yes, practice self-compassion. I wrote in the description a little bit that we're going to delve into self-compassion. And the reason for that is, I find, this is maybe my experience, but I've noticed it also with a lot of clients, self-compassion is something that when we're in this stressful mode of just marching on, and we have to keep going, and we have to, I don't know, take care of the kids and work from home and do all of that, and worry about our parents who are in a different place, and all of this with the pandemic. This is something that on the one hand is so helpful. On the other hand, is very often the first thing that we forget, that it's so important to sometimes just take a moment, breathe, and say, my goodness, how are you doing today? So that's the reason why I wanted to do that with you guys today, why this is the focus of our self-coaching session. And a specifically important thing I find with self-compassion is how we talk to ourselves. And this comes up with also a lot of clients of mine, that at some point we realize that we have this inner critic, or we have someone who just, inside of us talks us down, especially when things get difficult. And this is something that helped me also a lot a few years ago, when I noticed this more, and I tried to change it. It takes some time, but it's really worth it to pay attention to how we speak with ourselves, and what kind of an effect that sometimes has. I thought a nice way to get into the topic would be to share a little bit our go-to tips and resources that we already have. I think everyone has something that they always do, and that always helps, and that is just nice. And I thought, why not use the swarm intelligence, I think it's called, to increase our options here. So I went first, I put mine, two things that I really like. One is a yoga video. It's just 10 minutes long. You might be familiar with her. I think a lot of people have started using that. It was my absolute savior during the pandemic. Yoga with Adrienne, and she has one video that I particularly love. Was the first one that I always did, was yoga for self-care. And I thought this is a fitting topic. 10 minutes is not too long. It's also not exhausting, even if you've never done yoga. Believe me, that was my situation when I started doing that last year in March. It totally works. So this is my one tip. And another one is a lady called Dr. Christine Neff. She is American and she has done an enormous amount of research on the topic. And on her website, she also offers a lot of free resources in case you're interested to learn more about this. Also maybe look into the research in case you're interested in this kind of thing, because we also had two people as professed readers. So we're going to get started. We're going to coach ourselves. And I'm going to do it always in this way. I have one slide for each step, let's say, that we're going to do for each part of the process. And it always works in the same way. I'm going to explain the slide, everything that is on it. Then you get 5 minutes to just make your notes, to follow. There are very specific and clear instructions on every slide. To do, let's say, the exercise. And when we are done with that, after the 5 minutes, then we can have a short moment to clarify any questions, but also you can at any point in time write in the chat if you have a question or if something isn't clear or something doesn't work for you. Just you can also write me a private message if it's something, let's say, you don't want to share with everybody. Just like any coaching session, we are going to start with clarifying our goals and intentions for the session, and also for what we want to achieve in general in terms of, let's say, self-compassion, in terms of how we want to be kind to ourselves when it gets difficult. So the main theme for this part is going to be, what are your best hopes for our time together today? So what is the best thing that could come out of this session for you is the guiding question. And my very first and most important recommendation at this point is to not choose too many goals. I would say 2 or 3 is more than enough. You know, even if you just have one, it's definitely enough, because like I said, we're going to work only for 5 minutes on each one. The idea is just to get started on this. You can always use the recording if you want to go back to that, or if you want to go deeper into something, or use the slides also, just to get started on something, because my experience is when you have done it once, then it's much easier to do it again. And too many goals can actually be pretty confusing, and that makes it then harder to proceed. So if you have a long list, just write down your list and choose one, maybe at random, closing your eyes, or in any other way you want. I always write some supporting prompts on the slide that you can use or not use as you wish. It's just an idea. It's something that has helped me or has helped others that I have worked with to do this. So the first one is, how would I like to feel by the end of this session? How would I want to get out of this session, with which feeling? What would I like to walk away with? Maybe a more tangible result. And the last one I like especially, if I had a genie in a bottle, if I could make a wish, if I could just, you know, have whatever I want, then just let your creativity flow. This is also something that I love to say, is give yourself really permission to dream big here. You can reach for the stars. This is not about, you know, being extremely realistic or confining ourselves. It's really about trying to feel what we want and to get in touch with our desires and how we would like to treat ourselves, or how we would like to be, who we would like to be, maybe in these times. So it's completely okay to have big dreams and write them down here. Then I put 5 tips to make your goals really work for you, just to make them, let's say, attainable. The first one is, I can achieve my goal on my own. That is not to say all by myself, I actually was struggling a little bit to translate this in German. It's easier for me. So what it means is that you have the actual power to reach this. So, for example, if your goal was to end all problems on the planet so that you don't need self-compassion anymore, I'm exaggerating here. And then, of course, this is not in your hands, right? So the trick is, and this is much more difficult sometimes than it would seem at first sight, is to really drill down to what can I do? What is my contribution? I like to use, in a different scenario, I like to use the example of I want to win the lottery is not in your hands because you don't take the numbers out, but you can say, I want to win the lottery, so I'm going to play once a month or something like that. No? So this is the part that you can actually influence. Whether or not this is a suitable goal is a different question, but this is how to drill it down a little bit. The next one is, my goal is stated in present tense as if it were already a reality. So you are trying to say, not I will, one fine day, I will, I don't know, take good care of myself by doing X, Y, Z. But you say, I am taking care of myself by doing X, Y, Z. This just makes it much stronger and much more easily relatable in my experience. Then a similar one, my goal is stated as a description, not as a wish or a desire. So this is similar to the one before. And it means that you don't say, I want to, or I wish I had, or I wish I could. But you really describe what it will be like when you have achieved it. And then another one that I love, my goal states what I want as opposed to what I don't want. Because most people, including me, are very good at making long lists of what we don't want. But it's sometimes much, much harder to get to what it is that we actually do want. And it takes some searching and some digging sometimes, or maybe just some holding space in order to let it come out. The last one is, I can test, check, or prove if or that I have reached my goal. This doesn't mean you have to have a scientific setup or like I don't know, like some sort of external auditor come and audit you. It's more about being specific. So, for example, if you say, I know that I will feel better if I work out frequently, or if I take frequent walks, let's say, then the idea is to say, okay, what does frequent mean? Is it once a week? Is it once a day? Is it once, just a walk around the block, or is it like a longer walk, or what exactly is it? So that you have an idea how to check if you are really doing that. So, and how we're going to do this in the 5 minutes that I will give you is you take a pen and a piece of paper, and you write down your goals. And as I said, if you have a lot of ideas, just write a long list and then just pick one or two. It's more than enough. Then you try to write it out in a sentence. And when you are done, I really recommend you to read it out loud for yourself, because you're on mute, nobody's going to hear you. And it really helps. It helps me always, and most people that I speak to also, you get a better idea for how it feels, this goal. And then when you feel like, okay, I'm okay with this, then you can maybe go back to the checklist in the blue box, just to see, does it more or less fit into this logic? Maybe it doesn't have to 100%, but so that you have maybe a little bit of a check if there's anything that you could adapt. And if there are any questions, just message me in the chat box, and I will do my very best to help you with that. Okay, Then I will start a timer for 5 minutes, and I will tell you 30 seconds before it's over, or maybe 20 seconds. I will whisper so that you know that the time is approaching. Okay, then see you in 5 minutes.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed working out your goals and had some fun while doing it. Just in case you're wondering, didn't Evelyn look slightly different in the previous exercise? Yes, she did. And the reason is that while I was recording myself in the workshop, I thought it was a fantastic idea to pause the recording for the 5 minutes of the earlier exercise. And of course, I forgot to resume the recording afterwards. So here we are now. I am recording exclusively for you. One more time. Luckily, I realized it quickly afterwards and I resumed the recording. So all the rest of the workshop is fine. But here I am doing this one so that you can actually get to work on this second part. So now that we have our goals well defined, the next step in our self-coaching journey is to take a little trip to the place where your goals have already materialized. And I love this part where we talk about your preferred or even ideal future, because it's so much fun and it's a really rewarding activity after the little bit harder work, let's say, of defining the goals. So the guiding question in this step is, what changes will you notice when you reach your goals? Imagine you wake up one morning and everything is exactly the way that you wanted it to be. You feel all the self-compassion that you need in order to support yourself in a challenging time. No matter what comes up, you can be kind to yourself in exactly the way that you wanted to. Are you there? Great. Then let's take a look around to explore this wonderful place and take some notes or snapshots that you can take home as a souvenir. I have again some supporting prompts for you. You can use as needed. You can also use your own, of course. What did I do to facilitate these changes? And how did I do that? What do other people notice about me now that I have changed? What have I learned about myself on this journey? How do these changes feel? And this I mean emotionally, of course, but also physically, because a lot of people describe that they have a different feeling in their body once that they imagine they have reached their goal. So I invite you at this point to scan a little bit up and down and try to feel if there is something that has changed physically for you. Could be, you could have a lighter feeling in the upper body, or maybe that knot in your stomach is gone. It could be anything, but just to pay a little bit of attention to that is a very nice thing to do. How we're going to do this, you will have again 5 minutes. The first step is to capture your impressions in as much detail as possible. So this is a really good recommendation, because the more detail you try to notice, the more realistic the picture gets. And that really helps us to connect with our goals and to have a very realistic imagination of what it would feel like to be there. Then again, I recommend you to read it out loud, whatever you wrote. Nobody's going to hear you. And you can feel and just try to feel a little bit what it's like. Is there something missing? Is there anything that you would like to add? It really helps me and it helps many other people. So why not give it a try? Third step is to, when you're done, Just sit a little bit, maybe close your eyes and just search inside yourself if there's anything that you would like to add or change. In my experience, very often the best things come out last. So when we feel like, oh, we've already done everything that we could possibly do, and then we give ourselves just a little more space, sometimes that can open up amazing possibilities. So just give yourself an extra 30 seconds or 60 seconds or however much you need to see if there's anything else that wants to come out. Okay, then I will see you in 5 minutes, and I hope you will have a lot of fun with this exercise. Enjoy.
again. Again, I hope you had enough time. If not, don't worry about it. This is not a scientific study or your text declaration. You can always go back and do the same thing all over again. Okay, guys, are you ready? Then we are going to go to the next part. And this is about our resources. And here we're going to do a two-step approach. But first, we're only going to look at the first part. And the question we are looking at here is, what is telling me already today that I have it in me to reach my goals? So we are consciously choosing to look at the things that show us in this moment that we can do it. I know there's this challenge to maybe look more at what is not working and what is not going so well. And we don't want to say that these things don't exist or that there is nothing that makes it difficult. It's not about ignoring that. It's taking a moment to consciously say, right now, I'm going to look at the things that already work for me and focus on that for a moment. So we are going to use for this part a scale from 1 to 10. And this will help us to discover where we feel that we are on our journey today. So the 10 is essentially what you just did in the previous exercise. So this is a complete achievement of your goals. This is where you already have everything that you wanted. This is a 10. And on the other hand, the 1 is the very, very, very early stage of that journey where maybe almost nothing or very, very little of your goals can be noticed yet. So we're always focusing on the progress and on the changes. So this is just, let's say, a snapshot, a brief glimpse of what is happening right now in this moment. And the scale will help you to discover where you are today. And another recommendation I have, and I find it's extremely helpful to do this physically. So to draw the scale, for example, you can just draw it on a piece of paper, 1 to 10, but it really helps to take your finger and move along. I was never a fan of this scaling exercise until I started doing that. Before, I always felt like, okay, yeah, it's nice, but I cannot really relate to what's happening here. And with this, that completely changed it for me. And usually you will just know when you're at the right spot. Maybe you don't know why, but you just know that you are there. Your finger feels in the right place. And then when you have found your position, then you can turn your attention from there as if you're physically turning and looking towards the 1 from wherever you are. If you're on the 1, then you look at the 0, you know, it's also okay. Just to see how far have you come from a theoretical beginning of that journey. How big is the distance? And then you can relate to that again with the supporting prompts if you want to use them. And you can ask yourself, how do I know that I have already come this far? So for example, I don't know if you're on a 3, doesn't really matter where you are, but then you say, okay, from 1 to 3, how did I make it here? You know, how did I do that? And then you can ask yourself, which part of my preferred future is already here? So which part do I already notice here where I am today? And how do others notice that I'm already here and not somewhat further down below? Who notices that? So especially if you have, I mean, you're not alone in this world. If you have some kind of responsibility for others, this, in my experience, plays a very big part also in self-care, self-compassion. And these people who we are responsible for, if it's children or maybe employees that are reporting to us, or sometimes even our parents, if they are older, or other relatives, these people will for sure notice where you are and how you are. And it can be an interesting question to ask. Who is it? Who notices? Who notices that? And then eventually, how does it feel to have come this far already? Because you could have chosen something lower, whatever it is. There's always a lower option. So you could have done that, but you didn't. And this creates some sort of feeling. And it's interesting to see what that might be. We're going to take again 5 minutes. You can create your own version of the scale, however you want, completely up to you. And then you can use your finger, try to figure out where you are, write down the number, and also maybe using the prompts, maybe using your own prompts, flesh out a little bit why you are there, how do you notice that, who notices that, things like that. Okay, then just the third step is to write down also how it feels. Maybe what thoughts come up for you. This can be very interesting because also this inner critic, or I liked, I don't remember who it was exactly. I think Christine maybe, who wrote The Saboteur, is a very good name for it also. Because that sometimes that comes up. Yeah, you're just a 4, or you're just a 6. Why aren't you already the 5? Or there is this temptation to kind of put ourselves higher than we actually feel, and that can be also an interesting thing to look at. Where if it comes up. Yes, and again, any questions, anything you want to ask or comment to me, feel absolutely free to message me. And then I will put another 5 minutes starting now. See you in a little bit. you had a good time with your scale and found your number for today, and some thoughts and ideas surrounding this. And this time we're going to move right on to the second part. And here the question will be, how can you tell that you've come even a little bit closer to achieving your goals? So what we're going to do for this is we're going to take the next small step. We're going to move one up from where we are today. So if you're at a 3 today, you're now moving to the 4. If you're at a 7, you're going to move to an 8. Again, I know that I'm repeating myself, but I love to mention it again. It's really, really helpful to do this physically, to just use the scale that you had created and just move your finger from where you are to that one next step, that one small step ahead, and to see what changes there. And then you can pause for a moment and really let that sink in. So how is it if I advance one step further, if I go that little bit closer to where I want to be? And you can again try to imagine physically that you turn and look from, let's say you move from the 3 to the 4, that you're looking from the 4 to the 3. So you're looking at the distance that you have covered, and really try to feel how that changes and how that makes a difference for you, and see what comes up. Okay, so the supporting prompts here that again you can take or leave as you wish. How do you know that you've moved up one step? How did that happen? How did things change from, I'm going to stick with my example, from 3 to 4, for example. What do you notice here that wasn't there before? So something that has been added from the 3 to the 4. And at the same time, what do you notice that is not there anymore, or maybe has become smaller than it was before? This can also be very interesting. And this ties also in with the next question. How does that feel emotionally and also physically? So very often people tell me, my God, I feel so much lighter when I go just one step up. So I feel, and maybe the joy has increased or something like that. No? So it's about what we leave behind as much as about what we acquire. And the last question, what do others notice about you that tells them that you have changed? And who is that? Who notices that? It's again very interesting, especially if you either work closely with others or you are in some way responsible for others. This is what I notice mostly with my daughter, that whenever I get better at self-care, everything in our house gets better. And it's very interesting to kind of switch the perspective and think of what do they see? What is it that they notice about me that is different now? And then again, we're going to take the 5 minutes, and you can just pick up your scale that you already have, or you can make a new one if you wish. Then move again your finger. I really recommend slowly just to feel it. It really gives a big sensation sometimes. And then you can go to the position that is just +1. And then you note down the changes that you've experienced using the prompts or using, and as before, any questions, just write to me. Okay, then I am putting the clock and you're good to go. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the second part of this exercise. If you'd like to share anything that you've experienced, if you'd like to ask a question, now is a great time to do that. That is actually also the beauty of choosing less. Then you realize how they are all interconnected somehow, no? And that you, just by working on one and focusing, you can sometimes get further than trying to work on all of them at once. That is very beautiful what you're saying. I'm happy that you experienced that. That is so nice. Yes, it's so important to carve out this time. No, I know that we all live such busy lives, and it's so difficult to get 2 hours to just tackle something that is only for us. And I really appreciate that you managed to take the time today, because I know that this sometimes feels impossible. And then if we give ourselves some time and space to give us some tender love and care, then it can really be magic. I love it's exactly that, no? That this goal that we have, it can feel so intimidating, even if it's a goal of self-care, which is weird, no? Because I mean, we're trying to help ourselves, we're trying to be kind to ourselves, but even that, when you are a perfectionist, or with this critic inside that we sometimes have, it can become like a lot of pressure. And this is also what I love about this one small step, that you can really just say, no, I'm not thinking about how I'm getting from the 9 to the 10. That doesn't matter today. Today I'm going from wherever I am, just one step. And that is also, in my experience, so much more motivating, that because you, like you said, you feel like, I can do that. It's not a big step. I can do it. It's not a big thing, but then you have already changed something, and that can be very helpful. Great. Are you guys ready for the last part? Which is then we also want to take real action and do something, and make this small step in real life. So here the question is, what do you need so that you can take that next step forward towards your goals? So we're about to take some action, or at least we're going to plan for some action. Here I have the supporting prompts, and just to ask yourself, what do you need to move a step closer? Could be absolutely anything. Who can support you in doing this step? And how does it feel to get this support from them? Because sometimes it has also happened to me sometimes that we know who could support us, but maybe sometimes we are not sure if we want to have the support in that way, and that can be interesting to look at sometimes, or sometimes feelings come up surrounding that support that we are getting. And then my absolute favorite question, what is the smallest thing that you can do today? Just after when we finish here, just when you close down your laptop, or however you end the session, when you switch off, when you take out your headphones and you're out of here, what is the smallest thing that you can do to kind of get this cascade of change started? Not the biggest thing, the smallest thing, the very, very small thing that you can do today. And here's also my recommendation, again, to be very specific as possible in your case, because that really, really helps with the implementation. For example, earlier we were talking about maybe you have a goal of taking frequent walks in nature because that is a part of your self-care routine, or you would like that to be a part of your self-care routine. And then being specific could mean, for example, right now, maybe you're not frequently doing that. You're not doing that as often as you'd like. So what could help you there maybe somebody to go with you. So if you have a friend or a relative or anybody who you like to go on walks with, that also wants to go on walks frequently, or maybe even different people. So it can be very helpful to say, okay, I want to ask my friend so-and-so, or I want to ask my aunt or my nephew or somebody, maybe colleague, to go on walks with me every, I don't know, Wednesday afternoon or whenever it is possible for you. And that really helps to get into doing, because when we have this in our mind, we have something we want to do, and we also have a vague idea of how we want to do it, but we would still need to do some, let's say, project planning in order to really get to do something. Let's say pick up the phone and call the person, and we have to think, who could it be, who has time on Wednesday afternoons? And this is sometimes enough to get us again out of the doing, out of the action part, back into putting this on the shelf and saying, oh, I'm going to do that when I can. So as specific as you can, it will make it much easier to actually do it. And then one question that I suggest you can ask yourself at the end is, when you have your plan, just to feel it out a little bit, does your plan feel complete and motivating? So when you look at that, how does it feel? Does it feel that you have everything captured, or is there maybe something missing? And also when you look at it, does it make you want to start doing it? Or is it maybe, I don't know, too intimidating, or whatever else could be the case that you don't feel motivated to do it? In that case, I can recommend to just go over it one more time in your own time later on with the presentation. Then I have some tips, 2 tips actually, to make your action plan work for you and not against you. The first one is contingency planning. So that's actually, it's just a plan B. So let's say you want to do something, but it doesn't work out for whatever reason, right? Life happens. If this Wednesday afternoon walk can't work because all of a sudden you have a work commitment at that time, and your friend only has time on work on Wednesday afternoons, just to think of, okay, what could be an alternative to that, and what could be a kind way for you to deal with that. So there could be, maybe you could say, oh, I know another person that has time on the weekends, or maybe we can walk in the morning and just for 10 minutes, maybe that is also okay. So that you don't have to face the situation that this person, or whatever is your plan is, doesn't materialize, and then you're back to square one. So this, I find it really helpful. I don't know if you can do that in 5 minutes, but just something to keep in mind that you can also do later. Another thing that a lot of people find extremely helpful, that I also use, is a vision board, or some kind of visual reminder of what you want to achieve. So you can use pictures, drawings, or really anything that you think is going to kind of connect you with your goals on a frequent basis, and then you place it somewhere that you will frequently notice it. So I love, for example, putting things, putting pictures or this kind of a collage on my phone screen, because I will look at it every single day. And or the desktop is also a good place, but it can also be the bathroom mirror, or above your desk at work, in your car, whatever it is that works for you, so that you have a kind of like a frequent reminder of what you, especially of the feeling that you want to achieve in the end, no? Something that connects you with that. So how we're going to do this, another 5 minutes to just take a look at your notes from the previous step, at the things that you felt were the difference, and the things that you could be doing. And then just think about it a little bit. What do you need to take that step? Who could help you with that? Then again, when you are done, you can read it out loud, and really try to feel is there anything missing? And especially this part also about the motivation, that you really try to see maybe what exactly is it that if it's not motivating, what could I do to make it more motivating? Maybe it just needs a little tweak, and then it works better for you. Yes, and then again, any questions, just message me, and I will set the clock so that you can have 5 minutes, and I'll see you then. you have an amazing and motivating action plan now. Let's see. I know 5 minutes, sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short. It really always depends on how you feel about something or what comes up for you. But it's usually quite a good way to find a middle ground for everyone. But in case there are any questions, anything you'd like to share or ask at this point, feel free to do so. It's not about creating another deadline for ourselves, right? It's more about trying to put into the real world what we have thought about today. And so I think this is the best plan B that you could ever come up with. We all know that this is going to happen. You are going to try to do something, and then you will not have time. And then this starts that you think, I don't know, like I'm going to say what I sometimes think, that yeah, you can't even do that. You can't even take care of yourself. So what else do you think you're going to be doing, right? Something like that. And this is exactly when we need self-care the most, from my point of view, you know, like when things don't work. And I think this is a fantastic plan B. That is also like very often when it's something that we think, or for us, it's very difficult to do for whatever reason, right? Something that, because you said that you had tried it for a long time to do this. So then it becomes, so if it doesn't work according to plan, then we have very little flexibility, you know, like normally maybe you would easily think, yeah, well, why not? Then I just do it like this, you know, no problem. But because it's, you know, at least for you, this task feels difficult, then it's like, oh no, it doesn't work the way I planned. So it's not going to be possible. And then it's like this catastrophizing, you know, starts. And then it's even though normally you would probably be very able to, you know, like to be flexible with it. In these cases, it can be very hard. Yes, great. That is very nice. I love that. Sounds so good. Great. Then I want to. Great. Then I want to congratulate you, because you just coached yourselves. So, you know, it's not something that we do every day. And I know it's hard work, because we don't have a coach to kind of push us. We have to push ourselves a little bit more. So it is actual work. And you did that. I have just one thing that I love to do also at the end of each coaching session, to just take a moment and see what has changed since we started almost 2 hours earlier. And so the idea is to just sit a moment and think, you know, like what has changed for me during this process. Just a brief moment to take stock, to see where we are now. And like I said, yeah, you have done a lot of work, and there's a lot of change sometimes in a short time. Sometimes we notice immediately, sometimes also it comes up afterwards. I love to, towards the end of a coaching session and also a self-coaching session, to just take a minute and just kind of see where we are now. So if you want to use some prompts, it's which ideas, thoughts, and emotions have come up during the session, something that wasn't there before or something that is not there anymore. Maybe you have experienced a shift in your perspective. And also, how does your body feel differently now? No, this is a favorite topic of mine, to look at your body and to just scan a little bit up and down and see, well, that's actually, there is a little change here or there. That can be very enlightening also. And of course, feel free to make some notes if you want for later reference. thank you for sharing your time and your energy today. Like I said, I really appreciate that. I know how hard it can be to carve out 2 hours for something for ourselves. And it was really great to have you here today. And I really wish you all the best. I'm very interested always in hearing how things continue. So if you feel like, don't feel obliged, but if you feel like sharing anything about what happened afterwards, or anything that came up for you later with me, feel absolutely free to do it. I think you should have my email. You can always also find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. So that's also a good way to connect with me. I love connecting there with people. The very last thing I would like to ask you, if you don't mind, because I always like to ask for feedback for the session, just to see, how was it, and also how can it be done better. I will put the link in the chat, but if you don't have time now, it's no problem. I will put it also in the presentation later, so you can do it in your own time whenever you want. Yes, I wish you a fantastic end of the day, or rest of the day, rest of the week. And I'd love to stay in touch with you in whichever way. And I wish you all the best for your goals, of course.